Podcasting is more than just talking. It's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
Money magnet, teacherpreneur, and author of the book Mind Over Money, How to Live Like a Millionaire on Any Budget. Timolin Langin, my guest. Timolin, I got to ask, as a radio guy and a podcaster, is it possible for me to become a millionaire?
I believe it's possible for all of us to live like a millionaire and possibly become a millionaire. A lot of that depends on the actions we take.
Now, what do you mean by the difference between living like a millionaire and being a millionaire?
I really, truly believe that I am living like a millionaire on a teacher's salary. I've been working as a teacher, and my teaching income does not equate $1 million. But I am living the life of my dreams. I am loving my life. And as I said in the book, if your income is between $50,000 to $75,000 a year, and you're managing that money properly, you can have just as much happiness and joy as the average millionaire or billionaire. And they've got statistics out there that prove it. So happiness and living a great life is not dependent on income once you reach a certain threshold.
Do you think that money buys happiness?
Oh, no, I don't think it buys happiness. I think it opens the doors for you to be happier because, obviously, if you're not worried about how you're going to make ends meet, that alleviates a lot of stress in your life, and stress will make you miserable, I believe.
Oh, I think you're right.
That's what I think it is. I think people, I talk about debt weight, the weight of debt in the book, and that is what makes people unhappy. That is what makes people sad. Anytime you're underweight and things feel heavy, then you're not functioning freely and moving about life as you'd like, and that is what causes the stress. Obviously, stress takes away from happiness. So to be happy, then just do the opposite, right?
You would think so.
That's my philosophy.
Absolutely. So, Timolin, at the beginning, I mentioned that you're a money magnet and a teacherpreneur, and I actually read the word teacherpreneur off some information that I have here. That's the first time I've really heard that word.
It's a term I made up because it describes my life so beautifully. I am a teacher at heart, and I've been a teacher for a very long time, but yet I have engaged in entrepreneurial activities that have really increased my income and led me to, buy the properties and actually become a millionaire. Not from my teaching job, but from making certain investments along the way. So that's why I call myself a teacherpreneur. And I encourage everyone who works to have something that they love doing on the side to generate income, to generate that extra income. And so that's one of the principles that we talk about in the book as well. Yes, you may start with a certain salary. Your question was, can you really live like a millionaire without $1 million? And the answer is absolutely yes. And then you work on increasing your salary. And so I hope we'll get into the paradigm shifts that need to take place too, because that would make for a very interesting discussion.
Well, I'm wondering if a lot of people think that they can live like a millionaire, and then they pull out their credit card and they keep charging and charging and charging, and pretty soon the bills come in and they're looking at it like, well, I lived like a millionaire for about 2 weeks, and now I can't afford it.
Well, you know what? We're talking about an ongoing way of life. Living like a millionaire is a philosophy of life. It's not a 2-week stint here and a 2-week stint there, because truly, if you're going to be miserable at the end of that credit card purchase and at the end of buying all of those things that don't necessarily bring you joy, that don't necessarily bring you peace of mind, that don't necessarily increase your wealth, that's very different from what we're talking about. I'm speaking about being strategic with your money and managing your money in such a way that it yield the desired results. Mm-hmm. And the results of being able to spend money on your necessities and life experiences. So that helps you to feel like a millionaire and to live like a millionaire. It's like doing the things that you love and dreamed of. And let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about. I am a huge fan of women's tennis. I literally love it. And every time the Australian Open, Wimbledon, and even some of the minor matches, if you will, when they come on, I watch them, and I have been for years. So one of my goals is to go to the majors. And in January of 2017, I was able to do just that. My favorite players were playing, and I got to go to the Australian Open. I sat on the front row. on the front row. I visited Rod Laver Arena. I walked the grounds. I sat in the Champions Lounge. I had lunch, and I sat on the front row and took pictures and laughed with everybody there. And there were some fellow Southerners there, believe it or not, from Texas, sitting right behind me on the second row. And we just had a great time cheering for our favorite players. And those are the kinds of experiences I like. And I got to see both Venus and Serena play. And at that time, Serena was pregnant, and we didn't know about it. And so she had the baby. And then while there, she gave me this most wonderful look into my eyes and smiled. And those are the kinds of experiences that I'm talking about. That was living like a millionaire to me, that Serena Williams looked into my eyes and smiled. I'm still on cloud nine about that. So that's what I'm saying about managing your money and being strategic with your money in such a way that you have experiences like that to pass on and to share and to discuss from generations and generations. So that's what we're saying. And if your income falls within a certain range, it's already been proven that you can do the same thing.
How do we set ourselves up for that, though? I mean, to do those types of experiences that are going to be memorable for the rest of our lives and stories that we can share with our loved ones and with friends.
Yes. Well, you set yourself up for that by managing the money that you already have wisely. That means you assess, is this a need or a want before you start spending? Is this a need or is this a want? Is this something, how badly do I want it? Is this something I'm doing because I talk a lot about emotional overspending in the book? And is this something I'm doing because I'm having a bad day? We have something called retail therapy. And I have friends who, I had a bad day. I broke up with my boyfriend. I'm not in the best of mood. My boss yelled at me. I'm going to go shopping. And so what I suggest in the book is that before you take that road, let's look at something else that's going on here. You're trying to cope with stress from having a bad day at the office or having a bad day with a friend. So that's not a financial issue. That's not something we want to spend money on. That's something you call your friend up and you go for a walk, you read a book, you do something to take your mind off the stress, you exercise, you de-stress. And so you're not spending money emotionally. And then you are strategic with it. Okay, I've got certain expenses that I must take care of, and I prioritize those expenses, and I spend money there. And I also actually recommend saving money to do the things you love. My trip to Australia came with some preparation, and I started planning and putting money aside for that so that I would be able to enjoy my life, but yet I also have to take care of those basic needs and basic expenses, and I, spend money for that too. So that's what I'm saying about being strategic with your money. You've got to allocate it properly.
So that includes coupon shopping and looking for bargains and finding the best deals on different things?
It does, but I'm not a big fan of coupon shopping. But one of the things I do, and there are 40 tips that people can do that I list there, but one of the things that I enjoy doing is I like to shop at the off-brand places, the off-the-market places. I'm not a big on paying market value for things. Some things you have to, but for most things I find that I don't have to do that. So I will shop at say, the farmers market, some of the ethnic stores for groceries and food. And by doing so, I can cut a third off my grocery bill just by shopping at a different store and being strategic. Instead of paying $100 for a grocery, I can go to those places and pay $50. And that saves money on my grocery bill, and that gives me money to do other things.
And you even do that now as a millionaire?
I still continue to do that, yes. I still continue to manage my money well. It's so interesting, too. You look at, I've heard stories about Warren Buffett, and even there's a guy who owns IKEA. He still shops at vintage stores. He goes to some of the vintage stores and buys clothing. He's not paying full value for anything either, and he's a billionaire.
Do you find that people with that type of mindset end up making more money, end up investing better, and end up having more expendable income at the end of it all?
Well, I know that's true. I know that to be true. Certainly when you're paying less for things, you're going to end up stretching your income. That is the reason for that. So if you find that, okay, because we've got certain expenses. We've got mortgages, we've got rent, we've got utilities, we've got to pay those things in order to just live. And how do we cut those expenses so that we can live more, live like a millionaire, if you will? We've got to look at ways where we can cut the budget. For example, I love coffee. Here's another example. Love coffee. Drink coffee every day. I used to go to Starbucks. Well, I'm not sure if I can say that, but I would go to some of these places, and I would spend $5 a day, sometimes $10 a day on a coffee drink. And when you multiply that over 30 days, that's $300 a month on coffee. And I decided, I know I'm not going to give up coffee no matter what they say. I'm not going to give it up. So I make it at home now. And by making it at home, I still get to enjoy my cup of joe, and I get to put that $300 towards a bill, towards a trip, or something else that I deem a priority. And so, of course, set financial goals, and then you put money in places to help you fulfill those goals.
Timolin, are we teaching our kids the wrong way to spend money?
Most of us are probably doing that, and it's not necessarily our fault in the sense that we are not taught how to manage our money. I've been a teacher for many years, and even though they are starting to add some things in the curriculum, it's still rather basic. And so I do believe that there is definitely much room for education, for financial education, which is what I hope to do, and which is what I do. Yes, so absolutely. I think we just need to teach our kids to be strategic with money, too. Teach our kids that, number one, like the old paradigm, spending money makes you feel better. And shift that into believing that money is a tool. It's not a tonic or a tranquilizer, but it is a tool to create the life you want to live.
What are some of the lessons that we could teach our children so that way they have a better sense of money than maybe we do as parents or that their peers do?
This is a wonderful question. I remember growing up, and I may have said this earlier on to someone, I don't know if it was you or someone else I was talking to, but I was born and raised in Mississippi. On my mother's side, my grandmother was a cook in other people's kitchen, not a chef, but a cook, and her mother was a sharecropper, and they did not have much money. In fact, they had very little money, but yet I grew up watching them, and just not that we ever had conversations or anything about be strategic with money. Mm-hmm. You know, I would hear save money for a rainy day, but that was about the extent of it. But they modeled good habits. And I remember as a kid, and this is what goes to the question, what do we teach our kids about money? I remember my grandmother would have me, and I was learning to write. I was in elementary school at the time, and she would have me pay the bills. A bill would come in, and I would write the check payable to whom. I would fill in the amount of the check and then write it out, and then she'd sign the check. And then we go to the post office and mail it, or we'd set it in the mailbox. That was a very valuable lesson to me. Not that she says we do this because we want to pay our bills on time. And, of course, these days I think parents talk to their children more, so you can certainly explain, well, the reason we do this is because we need to have lights on in our place so that we can see, and then we want to make sure that the bill is paid so we can continue to have lights. And so here we are. We're going to write the check, then we're going to mail it and take it, and then they see you doing that. It's all about what parents are modeling for their children. You can model that and model paying that on time, just as you can model, which is what a lot of times we see. We see our parents go to the ATM machine and take money out of the ATM and then go and spend it shopping at the mall or what have you. And so we will come to the conclusion that, spending money is just for spending. When we're given an allowance, it's just for spending. There's no talk of that money is a tool to help you prepare for the life you want. Money is also for saving. Money is also for investing. Money is also for giving. And certainly you should spend some of your money on having a good time as well. So it encompasses all of those things. And those are lessons that we can start to teach early on.
Are any of those lessons better than the other one?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think all of those lessons are equally valuable. I think they're equally valuable because we don't want to be so strategic with our money that we don't enjoy life. It's not about living such a tight life that you don't, I wouldn't drive, like I would never say, drive 20 miles across town to get gas that's 10 cents less. I mean, that's not really being wise with money either.
Or time.
So we want to be wise and strategic.
I know people that will do that, though. I know people that actually drive out of their way, and I think about the time, the effort, the energy, the expense, actually, the wear and tear in my car. I think about all that stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to pay. It's closest right here. I'm just going right here to get it myself,
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes it's just pay the 20 cents more. It's not 20 cents more. You're actually saving $2 by driving across town, the wear and tear on your car and all of that, pay the 20 cents.
Exactly.
Or extra. So, I mean, you've got to use wisdom with this, too. It's not, and I mean, this is what I say. Living like a millionaire means living with some wisdom, living with a true sense of authenticity and a true sense to being honorable to yourself. I want you to enjoy every aspect of your life. And the good, what this looks like, a good picture is basically, you know what, I make enough money to take care of my living expenses. I make enough money to live a good life, to live the life of my dreams. And then I have some desires that I may, maybe I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Maybe I've always wanted to do, I have a hobby that I enjoy. So I'm going to make some time for that too. And that's just, living a good life, living a happy life that when you get to the end of it, you can say, you know what, I'm pleased with the way I've lived my life.
Are you?
I've lived a good life and I'm happy.
Are you pleased with the way you've lived your life, Timolin?
Oh, I am indeed. And not that life hasn't been challenging. I've had to make some sacrifices along the way. I've had to delay gratification on things. It's like I didn't get to go to Australia. I've been twice now, but the first time I had to wait a little longer. I promised some friends I was going to meet them there, and I met some friends on a tour of Europe in 1996. And I didn't go to Australia until 2010 for the first time. And now I've been twice and went to the Australian Open. But I love to travel and see the world, and I've been to every continent except Antarctica, and so I'm doing it. But timing matters.
Right.
And I just always make sure that when I'm traveling and doing the things that I love, that I'm not putting myself in a financial hole.
You mentioned delayed gratification on going to your trip. Do you think that society these days doesn't delay gratification enough?
I think we have the mentality, let's get it right now. We live in the microwave society. I want it, and I want it right now. And sometimes that gets us into trouble, because I do believe we can have everything we want, but maybe not right now. It may not be financially feasible to get it right now. And that's why it is so important to set financial goals and to set financial priorities and to stick by them. Once you set the goal in place, once you put it in place, and then you affirm that this is what you want to do and you're positive about it, then stick to that goal. And once you've achieved that goal, you'll find that other opportunities come to you. And I've been in situations where things have just come to me because I declared it. This is what I want to achieve, and this is what I want to happen. And because I was faithful and committed to that, certain perks came.
I think that actually you saying that, it helps, I think, people to hear that, because all too many times we wish it. It's like, I really wish I could have this, or I wish I had the success that, that person had. They got instant gratification and they got it right now. Well, in the backgrounds, they don't know that they spent years and years and years working on said item in order to get that item off the ground, or, that project as good as it was. I know that we had conversation on my radio show a couple of weeks ago, and you had mentioned that you had bought an apartment building or a piece of property on sale.
Yeah.
And I think about that, and I tried to explain that story to my son. Could you go over and tell that story about how you bought a piece of property basically on sale? Because property doesn't go on sale.
Oh my! I will be happy to, but I want to just comment on one thing you said too. There are no overnight successes. And I know sometimes we look at our favorite entertainer and our favorite person and we think, oh, this person is 20 years old, 30 years old. Oh, they just kind of blew up overnight. Well, I've heard many of those same people say it was a very long night, a night that took 10 years, 15 years in the making. It's just that they started when they were 3 or 4, and now they're 20. So that's what? 15, 16 years later, and now they're having that. So there are I just don't believe in most cases that things just happen overnight. There's a lot of work and effort going in behind the scenes that we don't see. That they've put in the time and the effort and the energy, the 10 hours and the 14 hour of days of rehearsal and being rejected and being told no, and then all of a sudden you just hang in there long enough and that yes comes. So I just wanted to say that, and so that people are not discouraged. That I think true success, genuine success, authentic success comes through hard work and effort, and it is a struggle sometimes.
It certainly
and
is.
Even with the property, my vision to buy property, and there was a lapse between the time I actually bought it and the time I actually thought about it. And but I had a plan and a strategy where I had to literally save, because I remember I come from a family of sharecroppers and cooks, so I have not received any inheritance or anything like that. So I had to really buckle down and save that money to invest. And I did that knowing that I had a vision, I had a goal, and I lived in a tiny place so that I could acquire the money that I needed to make that investment. So when this property came along, and I was scared and nervous and thinking, oh my gosh, you're talking about being an emotional overspender or an emotional spender, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I'm going to be able to afford it, even though I'd already been pre-qualified. And so the agent only showed me properties that I could afford, but this is my scared self-talking. And everything I've done scared. That's why I talk a lot about the emotions and spending, because we don't hear this often, but emotions act as spending partners for us. And so she's taking me out, the agent is taking me out, and I'm looking at property, and when she showed me a property, it was twice the size of where I was staying. It had beautiful green grass, big, beautiful bay windows, a front door and a back door, and a nice-sized kitchen, and I was like, wow, and I was closer to my desired area. And I'm thinking, there's just no way I'm going to be able to afford this. But I'm so glad I didn't say anything, because I felt like I was wasting the agent's time. And when she took me back to her office and we looked at the numbers, I lit up like a Christmas tree, because I realized not only could I afford it, I'm not really paying much more than what I was paying when I was staying in that tiny apartment. Mm-hmm. And that was just the beginning of my adventures as a real estate investor. It all started with that. And that property, I tell you, I paid $39,900 for it, and now it's worth, oh my gosh, over like $500,000.
Do you still have that piece of property?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
I will never sell it. And I've got that one plus some.
Did you put a lot of work and time into that, or was it just because you bought it when it happened to be in a low spot, and then it ended up just to be worth a whole lot more money?
Yes. And I always knew that I needed something in addition to my income. I've never been comfortable with one source of income. And I encourage your listeners to do the same. Look at how you can, what can you do that you love, that you enjoy, and how can you turn that into an income earning opportunity? So that's what I'm always doing, because job security is not the same as it used to be. How often do you hear that you can't necessarily depend on your job for 30 years, you work 30 years, you retire, you get a nice pension? Those days are not, they're leaving us.
What's a pension?
Exactly. What is that? I bet the millennials don't even know what that is.
Well, I know my parents had one. I know that being a radio personality, that there isn't one. There's 401k and other investments, but pensions are long gone, at least for most of the people I know.
I agree with you. I agree, and I'm probably on the last cusp of that.
So what are your 5 paradigms of spending?
Oh, wow. Well, the old paradigm is to spend money, that spending money makes you feel better. And the new paradigm, the shift is that money is a tool in your life, not a tonic or a tranquilizer. So it's a tool to create the life you want. And we've kind of talked about that a little bit in terms of just being strategic with what you already have and being very purposeful with the dollars that you have and knowing what is it that I really want out of life. And I encourage you to buy experiences. You have to spend money on two things, necessities and experiences. Uh-huh. So use your money as a tool to create the experiences in the life you actually want. And that takes a little thought and planning and preparation, but it's so worth it. It'll help you to stay on track, too, with your spending. Mm-hmm. And the second idea, old paradigm, is I do not have enough money. Well, the new way of thinking is that I already have enough to live well and happily. And the truth of the matter is you do, because if you're living in America or any first world country, you drive a car, you make $8 an hour, then you are richer than half the people on the planet. That's a pretty good position to be in. And so that means I already have enough money to do the things that I love. And so a healthier way of looking at that and approaching that is to say, yeah, I just want more. And that's healthy. It's okay to want a financial increase. It's okay to want more money. Money is not evil. I mean, we hear that sometimes, and sometimes people think, oh, I'm more noble if I'm broke. Oh, at least I'm not as bad as that person. And the reality is that money is just an object. It's what you do with it that determines, some sort of morality.
Right.
It is okay, and it's, it's the love of money that is the root of all evil, not just having money itself. Just kind of want to dispel that myth.
Right. I think that, is it the love of money or is it the obsession with money that would be more the root of the evil rather than the love of money?
Right. And yes, and I think that's how it's translated, obsession with money. I'll do anything to get it. It's just about having some standards about it, because I really do believe that you can acquire wealth and increase your wealth honestly, and by just being strategic with it and shopping differently. And I discuss 40 ways of how you can shop and spend strategically to increase the income you already have.
And you have those listed in the book, the Mind Over Money book?
Oh yes. And so a take on the next paradigm, the third one, would be I must have more money in order to be happy. And then the new paradigm is that the more I appreciate what I already have, the happier I am. And then that just speaks to what we were talking about earlier, is that when you get to a certain income level, when you reach a certain income bracket between $50,000 and $75,000, you really already have enough to be content and satisfied and to create the life you want to live. You really and truly do. And so it's just a matter of basically you have enough money to do what is emotionally satisfying to you. Be satisfied with that, because sometimes if we start equating happiness with dollar amount, I know people who have millions of dollars and they're still not quite happy. So we have to learn to appreciate wherever we are in life, appreciate where we are. And so as we grow to the next phase of life, then we'll learn to appreciate it too, and we'll be able to enjoy it.
I think we need to learn to step back and look at our lives and just say, hey, I'm doing pretty good. I have this, I have this, I have this. I may want some more, but you know what? Everything on the most part is pretty gosh darn good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great attitude to have. That is a great attitude to have. And that is the life that I live. That is the life that I want your listeners to live, everybody, so that we can live a great life with right where we already are. And it just takes a shift in thinking. A paradigm shift that's all it takes.
Well, let's look at shift number 4 then.
Well, shift old thought, work harder, longer to get wealthier. And the new paradigm shift is thinking wealthier will make you wealthier. And here, basically what we're saying is that it is not, I know so many people who work very hard and very long hours, and they're still struggling. They're still not able to make ends meet. And so thinking wealthier will make you wealthier, because number one, thinking, as a man thinking, so is he or she, by the way. And so what we believe and what we tell ourselves is what's going to come to pass. So by thinking, I am already wealthy, I am already rich, I just want to grow wealthier, I just want to grow richer. And when you start to tell yourself that and affirm that in writing by putting your goals on paper, then those things begin to manifest. Your actions just start to follow your thinking. And you'll find that people are in your life. It's like almost like when you have a certain car, you'll notice that everybody on the road has a car, that same car too.
Absolutely.
But you didn't notice that until you got it.
You notice that,
or
the
like,
color? Absolutely. You notice that the color of the car or the kind of car, or you got a new jacket or whatever. It's like, are you serious? You got that too? Come on.
Yeah, and then what they'll say, yeah, I've had it for years. You're just noticing because now you've got one.
Right.
Yeah. And so that same application can be applied to wealth building as well. I have literally been in situations where I had a vision and I had a dream. I didn't necessarily know how I was going to achieve it, but I know that by thinking about it and knowing that I wanted and taking baby steps towards it, something came out and helped me to get there. And so to achieve it, I talk about one of the properties I needed. I wanted to, but this was like maybe the third or the fourth property that I bought, and I had to close escrow on a certain day and by a certain time. And as a matter of fact, I was doing everything at the last minute. And so I needed to deposit a check from one account into a second account. But I needed to get the cash right then. And, it takes a day. At that time, it still takes a day or two before the check clears the bank. And so I needed them to trust me with several $1,000s, the banker to trust me to say, hey, this check is going to clear the bank. You don't have to worry. And because I had established a relationship with the banker, and I would always say hello and say hi to people and make small talk, after about an hour of deliberation, they gave me the money. Mm-hmm. They released it, rather. They released that check. And so that's what I mean when you have that vision and you put it into place, opportunities will come along, situations will happen that will propel you to the next step. And I just wholeheartedly believe that happens for everyone when you are determined, and you have to have it written down. I cannot tell you how important it is to write the vision down. And they've done research after research, which proves that your vision has you're 100 times more likely to achieve it if it's written down.
I will have to start writing down or typing it down because my writing is atrocious. Ah,
yes. They kind of go hand in hand. Writing, typing, it just needs to be in print.
Yeah. I need to do that. So the final paradigm shift is what?
Old paradigm is repeat what you're doing harder and longer in order to succeed. And the new approach would be to take different action to get a different result. And I know I was guilty of this last one too. I thinking, if I just continue to do the same thing over and over, eventually things will work out. Eventually the goal will happen. Eventually the dream will come to pass. And the truth of the matter is, and if I want something I've never had, I'm going to have to do something I've never done. Small things lead to big things. A money tree begins with a small seed, if you will. And so I use this example to express this particular point. Every Thanksgiving, I make potato salad for my family, and I use a certain kind of seasoned salt. And so I went to my family's house, and they didn't have any seasoned salt. So my niece and she was probably just in middle school at the time, and so we decided to go to the grocery store and get some. There was the generic brand, and then there was the name brand. And, of course, the generic brand costs a third less, and I decided I would get the generic brand, which is how I always make my potato salad. And so my niece wanted to get the most expensive brand, and I'm like, no. And then I showed her something. I compared the labels, and I say, see, the label says this product is the same as that product. So by buying generic, you're not necessarily buying something different. You're buying the main ingredients are the same. However, the label is prettier on the name brand product, but do I want to pay $3 or $4 more for that? No, I don't. So I wound up buying the generic version, and the potato salad was just fine. People ate it like they normally do, and there was none left over. And so that's what I mean by making a paradigm shift. Sometimes we just have to shift our thinking into knowing, wait, there's a different way of doing this. Let me take a different action to get a different result. And so that's what that one is all about. Instead of just, oh, okay, I'll just buy the name brand product because I like the name brand product, or I'm used to buying the name brand product. Well, that costs you more. And if you're trying to save money and be strategic, well, maybe buy the generic brand and keep the extra $3 or $4 in your pocket.
Do you still shop that way too, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I do indeed. I will always shop this way. When I become a billionaire, I will still shop this way. And like I said, I think I said earlier, the man from IKEA, the owner of IKEA shops in vintage stores. He's not buying new clothing. He buys used clothing or vintage clothing.
So it's okay to be frugal. It's funny because I've been called cheap before, and my brother goes, "You're not cheap, Bob. You're frugal." And I think there's a difference between being cheap and being frugal.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think being frugal, and I just call it being wise with your money. I mean, as working people, we have a limited salary, a limited income. So we've got to determine how are we going to spend it. We've got to make choices because we don't have unlimited amounts of money. So the thing is, what do I want most? What is my dominant passion? And if whatever your dominant passion is, I think you should put as much money as you can towards it than to spend on labels and brands that don't bring you that same satisfaction. We have to make certain choices.
How did you come up with your 5 paradigms?
Based on observations. I looked around at people who were prospering, and I would even compare myself to people who weren't, because even in my circle, people would always come to me and ask me for, well, how are you able to do this? How are you able to do that? And so I looked at what I was doing, and then I just started noticing what others are doing around me. And then I started paying attention to people who were having even more success than I am, financial success, and started looking and observing what they are doing. And it's so interesting. I found that I was doing similar things to the people who were having this huge amount of success. And so that's how I came up with the paradigm shifts, just observation, pure observation. And then these are things that I also practice, because every tip that I share in the book are tips that I've actually practiced, and that's why I believe they will work for most working people.
What inspires you?
I am inspired by beauty and natural beauty. I live here in Los Angeles, and I wake up every single day happy. The weather here is beautiful. And I remember when I moved here from Mississippi many years ago, and I flew in at night, and the city lights were shining brightly. And then I woke up the next morning to the sunshine and the palm trees and the ocean. And I still am inspired by this beautiful, beautiful place. So natural beauty inspires me.
Book is called Mind Over Money, How to Live Like a Millionaire on Any Budget. Timolin Langin, my guest, a money magnet and teacherpreneur. Timolin, how do we get your book? How do we find out more about the stuff we've been talking about?
Oh, thank you so much. And we're going to be doing workshops and different things to help people do more with their money. And so there's information at the website, livelikeamillionairenow.com. And that's livelikeamillionairenow.com. And there's a wealth of free information, videos, and we're going to start doing some things online like Facebook Live. Money. So we're going to start doing some free teaching and just sharing information, because what we want to do is create a community where we are helping each other and encouraging each other to just live the best lives. And it's just like going to the gym and exercise. And when you've got someone to do it with you, it's a lot easier, and you're more likely to actually do it and achieve your goals than trying to do it on your own.
And I love this quote: financial success is not a gift, it's a habit.
Oh, yes, it is. It is a habit. And just taking little tiny steps every single day, doing little things, little habits. And one of the little habits I talk about in terms of savings is that just save your coins, because people get overwhelmed when you start talking about saving money. I don't have any money to save. Oh, I don't have any money. Just take your coins, your pennies, your nickels, your dimes, your quarters, and put them in a piggy bank, and you'll be surprised at what you have at the end of the year. I know some people who've saved $3,000 just by saving their coins over the course of a year.
livelikeamillionairenow.com for more information. The BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com.
This has been another podcastforhire.com production.